At these big global summits, a lot of the real action happens behind the scenes. And at a recent G20 meeting, something that seemed pretty minor, a simple refusal to hold a meeting, actually sparked a massive diplomatic firestorm. On the surface, it might look like a scheduling issue, but underneath, it's a huge signal about the shifting balance of power in Asia. So today, we're going to break down exactly what happened, what it all means, and where this high-stakes standoff could be headed. And this quote right here, it just nails it. This is the absolute core of the issue. What we saw at the G20 wasn't some kind of scheduling mix-up or an accident. No way. This was a deliberate, carefully crafted message sent from Beijing to Tokyo, and frankly, to the rest of the world watching. Understanding that message is absolutely key. All right, so let's set the scene. Picture this. You've got the G20 summit in South Africa. The leaders of two of the world's biggest economies, China and Japan, are in the same building. It's the perfect chance for a chat, right? A moment for some critical dialogue. But then, bam, China's foreign ministry drops a public announcement. Nope, a meeting between Premier Li Qiang and Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is not happening. Okay, so let's really dive into the snub. To understand what's really going on here, you have to speak the language of great power diplomacy. And in that world, believe me, actions speak way, way louder than words. This brings us to a really important concept. It's called a calibrated expression of displeasure. I know, it sounds a little academic, but it's basically a power move. It's a tool that lets a country like China send a really strong signal that it's angry, that a red line has been crossed, but without taking the drastic step of, cutting off all diplomatic ties. It's both a punishment and a warning shot. And the timing of this, it's just brutal. Get this, a senior Japanese diplomat was literally in Beijing at that very moment, trying to smooth things over and reduce tensions before the G20. So instead of de-escalating, China used that exact opportunity to turn up the heat. They basically sent a message to Japan saying, hey, we're not going to normalize this relationship on your timetable. All right, so let's peel back another layer of this onion. A message was definitely sent, we get that. But what was the message really? And maybe even more important, who was it actually for? Because see, this wasn't just about Japan, not by a long shot. Beijing was playing to multiple audiences all at once, both at home and across the entire international stage. This was a carefully calculated move designed to have maximum impact. This move really had a dual purpose. First, the domestic message. At home, nationalism is a powerful force, and the government has to look strong on the Taiwan issue. After Japan's prime minister said a Taiwan contingency would be a contingency for Japan, meeting with him could have looked like weakness. Then there's the international message. This was a clear warning to other U.S. allies in the region, like South Korea or Australia. The signal was, if you step out of line on our core issues, you can expect a similar diplomatic cold shoulder. So the big takeaway here is that this wasn't some emotional, knee-jerk reaction. It was pure strategy. Beijing was signaling that Japan's stance on Taiwan was totally unacceptable. It chose symbolic punishment, a little political theater, while carefully preserving its crucial economic ties. And it projected this incredible confidence, acting as if it holds all the cards and can just sit back and wait for Japan to make the next move. This is a genuinely tense moment. With this new diplomatic chill in the air, we have to ask a critical question. Where does this all go from here? The answer could end up shaping the stability of all of East Asia. So, here are the potential paths forward. The most likely outcome, at least in the short term, is a controlled freeze. No more high-level meetings, which really hurts Japan's ability to manage a crisis. But things could escalate to a selective downgrade, think tourism restrictions or pressure on Japanese companies, which would cause real economic pain on both sides. And then there's the worst-case scenario, a severe downgrade. This would be a mutual disaster, where ambassadors get recalled and ties are suspended. That would cause immense damage to everyone. Now, China's move projects a whole lot of confidence, right? An attitude of superiority. But this gets us to the core of the matter. Does this perception of dominance reflect the actual reality of the power dynamic between these two giants? And this is the central question we really have to tackle. Because when you look beneath the surface of this one diplomatic event, the picture gets way, way more complicated. It's not nearly as simple as one side just dominating the other. The power balance here is not one-sided at all. Sure, China's leverage is its gigantic market and its control over critical supply chains, but Japan holds its own powerful cards. It's a global technology leader in crucial sectors like semiconductors. It has that ironclad alliance with the US, and it holds a lot more international legitimacy as a stable democracy. But ultimately, the single biggest thing preventing this from spiraling completely out of control is interdependence. They need each other, plain and simple. China relies on Japanese technology and investment. Japan relies on the Chinese market and supply chains. Neither country can truly punish the other without inflicting some serious damage on itself. It's the economic version of mutually assured destruction. So if a full-blown confrontation is a mutual disaster, how do they walk back from the edge? Let's look at the potential off-ramps that could de-escalate this incredibly tense situation. The biggest obstacle is always politics. Neither leader can afford to look weak or like they're the one backing down to their folks back home. So any solution has to provide what's called a face-saving way out, a way for both sides to claim they defended their national interests while still cooling things down. So here's what a practical de-escalation could actually look like. First, Japan could clarify its position on Taiwan is about peace, not independence. Second, China could frame the G20 snub as a one-time response, not some new permanent policy. And finally, both sides can publicly agree on how important it is to keep talking. It's a diplomatic dance that allows both to step back from the brink. And beyond some formal deal, these are the safety nets that absolutely must be maintained. They can use other international summits for quiet, informal chats. They have to keep economic channels open to protect supply chains. And most critically, they must keep military hotlines active to prevent a small accident in the East China Sea from turning into a major crisis. And this really is the central paradox of the China-Japan relationship today. They are locked in a fierce strategic competition, but they are also completely bound together by their deep economic interdependence. They have to navigate this intense rivalry without severing the very ties that prevent disaster. Which leaves us with this final, critical question. The G20 snub was just a single event, but its ripples are still spreading. Is this moment just going to be a footnote in history, a short-lived diplomatic chill, or are we watching the beginning of a new, much deeper and more dangerous strategic rift in East Asia? The answer to that is still very much up in the air.